The white woman in the janitor's uniform moved through the store with practiced invisibility. Nobody looked twice at Karen Whitmore as she emptied trash cans and mopped floors. They had no idea the new custodian was actually the CEO of Thompson Enterprises, and she wasn't here to help anyone. She was here to destroy David Matthews. David had been store manager for 6 years. Black, brilliant, beloved by his team. Employee satisfaction scores at his location were the highest in the company. Profits up 34%. Zero complaints. He was being fast-tracked for regional director, a position Karen had already promised to her nephew, Brad Miller. But Brad's own store was failing. Toxic management. High turnover. The numbers were ugly. So Karen had made a decision that would reveal just how far privilege and power could be weaponized. She would plant evidence, manufacture complaints, and use every racist assumption in the book to take David down. If you're feeling this story, subscribe to Principled Stories and tap like. YouTube's algorithm might not show us to you again, and we share powerful stories from around the world every week. What nobody knew, including David, was that Maria Santos, the real custodial worker, who'd been crying in the bathroom that morning, had overheard something. Karen on her phone in the parking lot before her shift started. "I need him gone by Friday. I don't care how we do it, just make it look legitimate." Maria had recognized Karen's voice from corporate training videos. But who would believe a janitor? Karen's plan was elegant in its cruelty. She began by befriending Maria, positioning herself as a concerned coworker who'd noticed problems with management. "That manager David," Karen said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "Has he been aggressive with you? I've noticed he raises his voice a lot." Maria's brow furrowed. "Mr. Matthews? No, he's always been respectful." "Really?" Karen's eyes widened in manufactured concern. "Because I've seen him get angry with Tommy in electronics." Almost threatening. "I'm just worried because, you know." She let the implication hang in the air, weaponizing the racist stereotype of the angry black man. Maria felt her stomach turn. This woman was lying. But why? Over the next 48 hours, Karen systematically planted seeds of doubt with other employees. She accidentally left David's office door open while making loud, aggressive phone calls. Then later claimed to other workers that it was David yelling at someone. She positioned herself near him during staff meetings, then flinched dramatically when he made ordinary hand gestures while speaking. But her masterpiece was the financial fraud. Karen had accessed the company's accounting system with her CEO credentials. She created false purchase orders under David's employee ID, unauthorized expenses, missing inventory, all traced back to him. $47,000 in irregularities that would look like textbook embezzlement. David arrived at work Thursday morning to find 2 corporate investigators waiting in his office. His stomach dropped when he saw the evidence spread across his desk. "Mr. Matthews, we need to ask you about these transactions," the lead investigator said, sliding printouts toward him. David's hands shook as he reviewed the documents. Purchase orders he'd never approved. Vendor payments to companies he'd never heard of. His signature, forged but convincing, on authorization forms. "I didn't do any of this," he said, his voice steady despite the panic rising in his chest. "Someone's framing me." The investigator's expression was carefully neutral, but David could read the subtext. "Sure they are. We've heard that before. We also have witness statements," the second investigator added. "Multiple employees reporting aggressive behavior, verbal abuse, creating a hostile work environment. That's insane. Ask my team." "We did. They're conflicted. Seems like maybe they're afraid of retaliation if they speak honestly." David felt the walls closing in. This was the nightmare every black professional fears. Being excellent at your job but still vulnerable to whispers, implications, and manufactured evidence. The system was designed to believe the worst about people who looked like him. But Karen had underestimated David's team. Tommy Chin had worked under 3 managers before David. He knew the difference between real leadership and performance. When the corporate investigators started asking questions, Tommy's answers were direct. "David Matthews is the best manager this store has ever had. If someone's saying different, they're lying." Sarah Okafor, 7 months pregnant and thriving in the supportive environment David had created, was even more pointed. Before Mr. Matthews, I was being harassed daily. He shut that down immediately. He protected me. Whatever you're investigating, you're looking at the wrong person. And Maria, quiet, observant Maria, had been watching Janitor Karen very carefully. The fake stumbles near David, the exaggerated flinches, the way she positioned herself to be overheard making complaints, and that phone call in the parking lot that Maria couldn't forget. Maria started documenting everything. Photos of Karen using the manager's computer after hours. Video of her accessing David's office with a key that janitors shouldn't have. And then, the smoking gun. Karen's reflection in a store window, smiling coldly as she watched David get escorted to his disciplinary hearing. The conference room was packed. Corporate executives from downtown. The 2 investigators. David, his jaw set with the dignity of a man who knew he was innocent but wasn't sure it would matter. And every single employee from the store, packed into chairs and standing along the walls. Karen Whitmore entered last, still in her janitor's uniform, pushing her cleaning cart. "Thank you all for coming," the lead investigator began. "We've completed our investigation into David Matthews' conduct and—" "Before you continue," Maria's voice rang out from the back of the room, "I need to say something." The investigator frowned. "Ma'am, this is a closed personnel matter. That woman is not a janitor." Maria pointed directly at Karen. "That's Karen Whitmore, the CEO of this entire company, and she's been setting Mr. Matthews up." The silence that followed was electric. Karen's face remained perfectly composed, but her eyes flashed with something dangerous. "I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm just a custodial worker." "Then why?" Maria interrupted, pulling out her phone. "Were you on a corporate conference call Tuesday night discussing regional director assignments? I recorded it through the office door. Your voice is very distinctive, Miss Whitmore." Maria hit play. Karen's voice, crystal clear. "Brad gets the regional position. I don't care that David Matthews' numbers are better. Brad is family, and I need people I can trust in leadership. So we manufacture cause for termination, plant evidence, make it look like financial misconduct." The room erupted. Karen's carefully constructed mask cracked. "You have no right to record." "One-party consent state," Tommy interjected, stepping forward with his own phone. "And I've got you on camera accessing Mr. Matthews' computer files with CEO credentials, time-stamped. Shows you creating those fake purchase orders yourself." Sarah stood, her hand protectively on her belly. "And I've got your emails to HR sent from your executive account, telling them to go slow on David's discrimination complaints. You've been sabotaging him for months." The corporate investigators looked at each other, then at Karen, then at the mountain of employee-generated evidence being thrust at them from every direction. Karen Whitmore, CEO, supposed leader, architect of systemic harm, tried one last play. She drew herself up, attempting to reclaim authority through sheer force of will and whiteness, and corporate power. "This is absurd. I am the CEO of this company, and I will not be questioned by your employees." David's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. He stood slowly, his 6 years of excellence and integrity radiating from him. "You won't be questioned by the people you were willing to destroy. By the janitor you thought was beneath your notice? By the black man you assumed everyone would believe was a thief?" Karen's face went pale. "You knew the system would work in your favor," David continued, his voice level but devastating. "You knew that a black manager accused of theft and aggression would be presumed guilty. You weaponized every stereotype, every bias, every assumption. You thought privilege and position made you untouchable." He looked at the employees surrounding him, his team, his family, the community he'd built through years of genuine care. "But you forgot something. Real leaders don't need to tear others down. They don't need to lie, manipulate, or hide behind disguises. Real leaders build people up. And when you build people up, they remember. They fight for you. They expose the truth even when it's dangerous." The board of directors held an emergency meeting that evening. By midnight, Karen Whitmore had been terminated for fraud, evidence tampering, and gross misconduct. Federal charges would follow. David Matthews was offered the regional director position he'd earned. Maria Santos received a promotion to assistant manager and a formal commendation for her bravery. Tommy and Sarah both got raises and company-wide recognition, but the real change went deeper. Thomson Enterprises implemented anonymous whistleblower protections, mandatory bias training for all executives, and employee oversight councils with real power to investigate leadership misconduct. They called it the Matthews Protocol, named after the man who'd survived an attempted character assassination and came out the other side with his integrity intact. 3 months later, David stood at a company-wide town hall, addressing employees from all 47 stores via video conference. "What happened to me happens every day to people of color in corporate America," he said, his voice steady. "We work twice as hard, perform twice as well, and still get questioned first when something goes wrong. But this story, our story, proves something important. When workers stand together, when they refuse to let injustice hide in the shadows, real change is possible." He paused, his eyes finding Maria in the front row of the audience. A janitor brought down a CEO because she paid attention, because she cared, because she refused to be invisible. That's the power every single one of you has. Use it. Protect each other. Speak truth to power, and never, ever let anyone tell you that your voice doesn't matter. The applause was thunderous. Karen Whitmore eventually pleaded guilty to federal fraud charges and served 18 months in prison. Brad Miller, her nephew, was quietly asked to resign when his own toxic management practices came to light during the investigation. But the most beautiful revenge wasn't legal or corporate. It was David Matthews, promoted to Executive Vice President of Human Resources for the entire Thomson Enterprises empire, using his position to build systems that protected vulnerable workers and held powerful people accountable. And Maria Santos, now a store manager herself, kept a photo in her office. It showed her in that janitor's uniform, standing beside David on that Friday morning when everything changed. The caption below read, "We see you. We believe you. We fight for you." Because sometimes, the person pushing a mop sees everything the person in the corner office misses. And sometimes, just sometimes, justice prevails when ordinary people refuse to look away.